Let's talk about how to activate the approach. There are many ways. Garmin has the activate vectors to final, activate approach. Then it gets into what we do in a professional environment, which is activating segments and extending courses. And that's what we're gonna go over today. On our prior video, we did talk about how to load the approach, and that's kind of how we got with this flight plan. And we got in with the approach that we're doing, which is gonna be in Chicago 27 Center. Remember, with all of our videos that are for recreational purposes, do seek instruction from a certified instructor, one-on-one instruction, because these videos are very generic and they're really, they're people who are go-getters and can understand everything. If you can barely follow along, use it to study, but seek instruction from an instructor. Our links will be on the description below. Let's talk about how most people activate. So when we start doing this video, you're gonna see that we're gonna have to reload the approach multiple times because we're using relatively older G1000 versions in the Mirage, this is the older software version of the G1000, but it's gonna help us illustrate the point on why it's important to make sure that your inputs are accurate and you keep the flight management system organized. So in this case, let me select heading here. Simulators pause. We are going to Chicago. ATC told us we're expecting, what they're giving us a heading for vectors. Actually, this is one of the only times I will send the chart to the map. And in this case, it's actually gonna help us. I'll keep it in the VFR section, that's fine. This is just gonna help us get some situation awareness of where the simulator is located. I know that NAV for nav sign is there, but this is what we're looking at just above that. And actually, let me circle where the location is so you guys can see a little bit better. Let's start doing it the Garmin way. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with this approach is we are about close to 30 miles away, right? It's 26 miles from the station. So we're still quite a bit away. So if we go and press procedure, activate the approach, on the CDI, we lose situation awareness because the CDI now what the system did is went direct to, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Victor, Oscar, Golf, Lima, Romeo, which is the initial approach fix. The reason why it's the initial approach fix is because it's offset from the final approach course. So now, instead of us knowing that where exactly we're going, we know we're not gonna go to that initial approach fix. We may be intercepting. So now you guys will see more or less the segment that we're gonna be intercepting right here on the iPad. We know we're not gonna make the right turn towards that initial approach fix, yet that's what we requested the flight management system to do. Now it's pointing us to the initial approach fix, but we know we're probably more than likely gonna be making a left. We're not gonna be making a right. Now, if we select approach, now one of the crucial thing here is VNAV. And this is why the next option will screw you up if you're planning on using VNAV. I can tell you this, if you're 26 miles away from the airport, you will be using VNAV because you're still far away from getting a good lock on the localizer frequency. So it's not uncommon that you're gonna be flying on GPS until the fix prior to final approach fix, and that's when you switch to green needles. So now, if we press procedure, activate vectors to final, notice what's gonna happen. I want you to take a look. It's the initial approach fix, right? Let me get my pointer here. Initial approach fix, ILS 27, we have all the altitude VNAV, all the VNAV altitudes are there. Now, procedure, activate vectors to final, bam, it took away. Not only did it skip it, not only did it went to a final approach fix, but it took away all the waypoints along that course. Notice our CDI doesn't have a lock on because it cannot identify the station because we're too far away. So, and now, this is a little bit more dramatic because this is the older G1000 version. The newer G1000s don't delete the waypoints, which at least is better, right? And this is when I said we're gonna have to reload this approach a couple times. Select approach 27. I'm gonna skip let me load the initial approach fix. I'm gonna skip loading the minimums. This is how we fly at the airline level, corporate level, any sort of bigger airplane. This is how you sequence the flight management system. You do not activate vectors to final, you do not activate approach, right? Because you're gonna see already how the system kind of has its own logic. Even in the newer systems, on the newer software of the G1000, the system will do whatever it wants and you still always have to be keeping track of it, right? So now we know that there's a chance they may ask us to intercept that course, or they may ask us to intercept the final approach course. The final approach course, we're gonna use this 273. Let me get the pointer here so you see the 273 I'm looking at. You're gonna be comparing this 273, and that's why we're gonna be extending. Let me go back to plates. The reason why you're gonna be using 273 as the final approach course is because there's a chance that the final approach course on the G1000 may be off by a few degrees compared to the chart. If that is the case, the G1000 or the GPS, the database on the navigational system takes precedence because it's more accurate. It gets into a whole mathematical formula, is more accurate. In this case, they're the same, so it's not a factor. So we have to note this 273 on the flight plan. So now I'm gonna go and highlight this waypoint. November Charlie Hotel Lima Sierra. I'm gonna press direct. Now I'm gonna come down here where it says course, and if you forget what approach course you were looking at, in case there's a difference between the chart and the G1000, you have the flight plan here on the PFD, and you can still see 273. So now I'm moving the FMS small knobs to select it. Now we're going to be extending that course. By doing this, notice that we still keep up with our prior fix in case ATC decides that they want us to intercept the segment. I'll show you here. In case ATC is expecting us or they want us to intercept this course. That's the course we care about. Let me change it to, let me take away that section. That way we have a little bit more information here. So that's the segment that we care about. So this is what we have planned. So generally this happens, starts activating the approach is when ATC tells you turn heading 340 vectors for the approach. That's your first cue to activate the approach. You have those options, they're there in the system, you can use them, but you're already seeing why they're not a good idea. So this is what I will do the moment they tell me fly 340 heading, vectors for the approach, this is what I would do. I will actually extend the course. As we get closer, because at the beginning we're just taking a guess, right? We're taking the farthest point away on the approach and we're extending the course. And that's what we did here. Now as we get closer, ATC, now we're gonna have a better idea on where exactly we're gonna be intercepting the approach. So you're gonna be updating this once or twice during the process of the approach, right? So now let's say ATC changes their mind and they say intercept which I don't think this will be, I'm not an air traffic controller, so this is only for demonstration purposes because this will you be using something else. They will tell us to intercept between Boger and Nichols. So now we have highlighted Nichols, and down here on the bottom, on the soft key, you will see, let me get my pointer so you guys will see what I'm talking about, activate leg. So you can press activate leg, and now notice it will say Boger to Nichols, and we're gonna activate that segment. Now, one thing we haven't done here, and I didn't pay attention, is the CDI. We keep the CDI on GPS, we are gonna have more situation awareness because now we know that that course is going to be up ahead of us, and the CDI is in the direction of the course because we are using the bearing pointers. We now can have an angle to interception. I know because I'm looking at the bearing 2 pointer, because that's pointing to Nichols, I know that that's about 20 degrees away. If we would have done the direct, let me extend Nichols because I didn't have the needle set up, was 273 was the course, just to show you. Now we know that for the course, the final approach course, we are roughly about 30 degrees away. And we can see that because the bearing pointer 2 is pointing to Nichols and the final approach course is already set to 273. This is more or less, think about it, OBS, there's also another video where we talked about the OBS in great detail. Link will be here on the top of our video. So now you have seen the reasons why we will be sequencing the approach, and it's better to do either extending the course or activating a segment, not using the activate and activate approach or activate vectors to find those, because you actually could lose out a lot of information. One thing to point out, in the newer G1000s, sometimes it will not take the sequencing, especially if you're coming from the other side, because the system thinks it knows better than you do as a pilot. So you have to wait until you either a BMAT or passed it on the opposite end. That means kind of you're coming on a downwind base to final. If you're still on the opposite side of the airport, it's not gonna let you sequence the approach until you get into that part of the segment. By the way, we do get it. These videos are fast. They're fast-paced. There's a lot of information going on because the disclaimer here is these videos are not standalone process. This is not for you to watch them. If you're very good, if you can keep up and you've been studying, this is going to help you clear up. But this is more videos for homework. This is because many of our clients, we kind of do go over this, but because we need 3 times to see almost the same thing to actually understand it, and that's kind of human behavior, right? We need to see it 3 times. So generally people will practice it here in the simulator, watch the video, and then we can try it in the simulator again until they get it, or when they go out to the airplane, which is all our sole purpose here at Aviator.nyc, is to make your flight training more efficient. These videos are not meant for you to watch them, understand it, and go fly them. You gotta seek instruction from a certified instructor. You gotta practice these procedures, and you gotta understand them very well. That way when you get on the airplane, you're not gonna give the deer with the headlights look to the instructor or feel like you're falling behind the airplane.